What's going on, Forever? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do support Trump. And
Age,
by the
please.
way, that is a nice polo. Did you get back from Resurrection Day, Dean?
Melissa, thank you so much for the galaxy. No, I didn't get back from Easter Sunday church, but I threw it
Oh,
on for the occasion nonetheless.
okay,
Nonetheless.
okay. I got a little excited for a second. Thought you were making the turn towards the right direction, but
One,
anyhow,
one second. I'm going to go
um,
live on YouTube. Give me 3 seconds here.
okay.
For the 5.6 thousand people in the TikTok stream, make sure we're double tapping. Hello! Oh, wait. I need to make sure that my mic is on the right setting over here on YouTube, guys. Make sure that we're double tapping. My mic is always off on the wrong setting on YouTube. I don't know why this always happens to me. Oh no. There we are. Hello, welcome into the YouTube stream for everybody tuning in. It is so good to have you in here with me today. I do apologize for the delay there, getting the mic connected. We're going to go ahead and hop right into the debates with the Trump supporters. In fact, we already have our Trump supporter, Mr. Forever, up on the live. Mr. Forever, we had a little bit of a conversation before I went live on YouTube, but I want to ask you a question. You said that you're Christian, you're celebrating Resurrection Day, Easter. So do you agree that Easter is supposed to be symbolistic of granting of bestowing and upholding unity over division, love over hate, lightness over darkness, to bring people together compared to the separation and division of humans?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Well, then, I mean, how do you feel about your president, who is self-proclaimed as a Christian, using Easter to infiltrate and spread hate and division amongst Americans?
Uh, Specifically today, or just him running in general and his characteristics?
No, like specifically today, he put out a statement saying Happy Easter to everybody, but I think that half of the country is crazy, judges are lazy and corrupt, and Democrats support murderous MS-13 gang member wife beaters, right? Just further using the insertion of Easter as a way to further divide the American people, which is not only contradictory to the values bestowed on us by Jesus Christ, if Christianity were to be true, but additionally, it's also antithetical to all the values in which this very special day in the Christian faith is supposed to represent.
Yeah, I don't want to go against Trump and his beliefs. He could be a Christian. I'm not sure if he is. I think in the past and throughout history, we've seen people claim to be Christians and spread hate. And I think Trump is one of these individuals who claims he's a Christian to maybe get a bigger target audience towards the Christians, such as myself and other people. However, I think that the lies he spreads and the hate he has in his heart would not be representative of a Christian. So although he claims to be a Christian and may have gotten Christians to support him, I think his claims, such as today, are not a good representation of the Christian faith in general.
So
And I would,
everything you just said is true. In fact, it was incredibly well said at that. That was incredibly well said. I got to give it to you. But this is exactly why I think Christians should not support the current administration.
yeah, and I think I don't support Trump as a person. I think I'm more so a conservative. I'm not for Trump per se, but I do think that some of my morals do not align with the left side. And because of that, because of those reasons, I'm not supporting Trump, but I'm more so supporting just against a few policies that go against my morals.
Okay, like what?
Yeah, so one being abortion, I don't think that, morally speaking, I think that people can maybe do what they want. However, I am against it, so I do not think that legislation should be promoting abortion as a good thing. And I'm also, that's one of the main reasons I voted for Trump is because he is anti, yeah,
So I mean, you just said that people should be able to do what they want, but you're against it. So do you know whose view that is identical to?
Harris.
Precisely. She's a Baptist. I think that we have good reason to assume that she probably thinks abortion's wrong herself. But the entire point of federal protections is to allow every single woman and girl the right to make that decision for themselves.
Yeah, and I agree. I think if I was, I would never run for president. I think if I were to run for president, I would probably say that it should be federally protected. However, I do not think that I would be getting an abortion. I don't think I would be advising other people to get an abortions. I do think it should be an option.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't think you'd be getting an abortion like regardless. But okay, so you told me that there's policy that Kamala Harris ran on that you disagreed with. The first policy that you name would be her policy as it related to abortion. But I mean, like now, 10 seconds later, you've made the concession, and now you're telling me that you actually support her policy on abortion over Trump's policy for abortion. So, what policy did Kamala Harris run on that was so incredibly bad that it made you want to vote for the fake Christian with abortion policy that you don't support?
Yeah, so I know that his stance on immigration, I think, is good. I do think that legal immigration should be promoted more throughout the U.S. However, I do not think that illegal immigration should be promoted, and I think that we can see through Biden's administration that he seemed much more lenient on the matter, and we had a influx of illegal immigrants coming into the country. However, under Trump, we can see these numbers going down by quite a bit. So I think that that is good.
Okay, all right. So at the end of the day, you voted for Trump over Kamala Harris for immigration policy. Okay, so sweet. Here's my question: would you agree that what America needs right now is a long-term solution to reduce undocumented migration into America in the long term?
I think long term is good, but I do think it has to do mostly with the president and if they're firm on immigration. As we can see, Trump has not really implemented long term effects, but just being
Right.
firm on immigration in and of itself is enough to.
I don't think it is.
Well, we can clearly see it is with Trump in office right now.
What do you think causes undocumented migration into America?
I think mostly it's them knowing the stance that the U.S. is in currently.
So I think what the root cause of undocumented migration into America is just the very simple fact that the legal means of entry into America are slow, expensive, take way too long because of neglect from Congress for essentially all of modern American history. And this is what has incentivized so many individuals to enter into America with use of undocumented means. I think what we need for immigration today is a long-term solution to reduce the amount of time and expense that it takes to enter into America legally. And I find this as the only appropriate and/or adequate solution to resolve undocumented migration right now. I think that any other solution, such as just being firm or scaring people away from entry by violating undocumented migrants' right to due process or like deploying the National Guard to the southern border, is nothing more than putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. It does nothing good for our country, and it definitely doesn't solve the issue of undocumented migrants that are already in our country. I think what America needs is very quick, efficient legal means of entry into America, while then offering all undocumented migrants in America that have not committed violent crimes a pathway to residency or citizenship. I find this to be the best position ethically, as well as practically, as well as speaking in an economic sense.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think that the process to become a legal citizen should be much faster. However, I do think that it is not fair to say that Trump is not doing anything to help reduce migration because we can really see that as of now, the numbers are way less than Biden administration. So I do think that Trump is doing a good job, maybe not long term uh, policies, but as of now, he is doing a great job to reduce immigration.
Oh, well, like the reason why I disagree is because although he's implemented policy to reduce undocumented entry right now, I don't care because it's not a long term solution. It doesn't actually fix anything, as well as his position on mass deportation is incredibly harmful to migrants and to America. Like,
Yeah,
do you
and
support his plan for mass deportation?
I think that if you came here illegally, you do not have the right to stay. So I do think that they should be deported.
Okay.
And I personally think that they should stay. However, I do not think that the people who are being deported, and I do not think that we should be viewing this as a bad thing because they came
Well,
over
Johnny, I
here
appreciate you for the raid.
knowing the consequences of coming over here.
Okay,
So I think that
so I mean, I could explain to you why like mass deportation is a bad thing. First, let's just see if we could agree on a couple bases. Can we agree that like the point of implementing legislation through a government is to just increase the quality of life for the constituents of a country?
yes.
Okay, and like if policy doesn't increase the quality of life for people, it's probably bad policy that we should get rid of.
Wait, say that again.
So the point of legislation is to make people's lives better. Okay, can we agree if legislation does not make people's lives better, but ultimately makes people's lives worse? It's policy that we should probably get rid of.
Yeah, unless it's like an equity efficiency trade off, then
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I mean, this is why I'd say that we should get rid of mass deportation because I think that mass deportation makes people's life worse. I mean, I don't even need to describe to you how mass deportation would make the life of migrants worse. Let's more so focus on Americans because that's probably going to be the contentious claim that we disagree on. I think that undocumented migrants increase the average qualities of lives in America, as is the case that they pay over $100 billion per year in taxes on the federal, state, and local level. They're productive providers inside of the American economy. They aid and abet insofar as GDP growth in this country, as well as they reinforce our labor force, which means that America has high higher productive capacities, and our producers can work at more efficient levels. When we say that we want to forcefully remove millions of people from the labor force, forego $100 billion per year in additional revenue on the federal, state, and local level, and forego the additional GDP growth that is generated by undocumented migrants in America because they don't have the right to be there here, therefore they should be deported. Ultimately, that position just reduces and lower qualities of life, as well as less income for our government to spend on increasing our quality of life. And this is why I think that we should get rid of mass deportation and we should rather entertain solutions to mass amnesty.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you said. However, I think that the illegal immigrants that are here right now, or undocumented immigrants who are here right now, the only reason that they're helping the economy is because they do not have documentation. So that means that there is a more competition in the workforce, which lower wages, and these people are already working at a lower wage. So they're helping the economy, but they're getting paid lower wages. Just it's almost like they're getting like almost like they're like slave wages. Like they're getting paid hardly anything, and that is the reason that they're helping the economy. So yes, they are helping the economy, but in a bad, like immoral way. Like the only reason that they're helping the economy is because they're getting paid super low wages, and they're because when there's greater competition, it's lowering the overall wages. So now Americans who were working those jobs are getting paid less because there's more competition, and these immigrants are taking that competition away from U.S. citizens.
Okay, so if your argument is that they're bad for the economy because they create more competition, therefore they shouldn't be in our country, well, so do legal migrants. They also create more competition. Therefore, your position would tell us that we should stop all legal migration into America, and so do American birth rates. If we were to restrict the amount of children that Americans can have, hypothetically, that would lead to less future competition in the workplace. Therefore, your position would also result in the consequence of restricting the birth rates of American citizens. But I more so want to refocus on one thing that you said. They get paid essentially slave wages. So here's the deal. Undocumented migrants have the same legal protections as documented workers. This means at the bare minimum that they're getting paid federal minimum wage or the state minimum wage in which they preside in. And the Trump administration has made it clear they do not want to increase a federal minimum wage. Does this mean that you think that the Trump administration supports slave labor?
Because they do not want to increase the minimum wage.
Yeah, and you're saying that because undocumented migrants get paid lower wages on average compared to American citizens, however, they're still legally required to be paid at least minimum wage. This means that you think being paid at least minimum wage is equivalent to slave labor. And because the Trump administration supports the current federal minimum wage that we have, this means, under your own view, that the Trump administration literally supports slave labor.
I would be interested to see the statistics about that, but I do not think that undocumented immigrants are getting paid minimum wage. And
Oh,
you
they have to be.
realize
They have to be. So they have the same legal protections as American workers.
undocumented migrants.
Yeah,
I feel like that's not the case, especially on
it is.
construction sites and in most of these places that they're working. When they're not getting paid and they don't have to pay taxes, they're gonna be getting paid much less because they're gonna be accepting. Like if you're talking about like them working at Chipotle, sure they're getting minimum wage. If you're talking about them working construction, if you're talking about them being maids for people, which is most of this is not racist. This is most of these jobs that they're coming in and getting, then they're going to be paying them less, and they're not going to be having to pay the minimum wage because
Okay,
it's
so
like
I mean, it is true that undocumented workers have the same legal protections as American workers. I mean, feel free to look that up for yourself. I mean, all that you got to do is type undocumented workers have the same legal protections as U.S. workers into Google, and then I mean, you could find sources from Legal Aid at Work, Clearwater Law Group, the University of Chicago, American Bar Association, PBS. Yeah, we have federal law that ensures standards of labor practices for all laborers, regardless of their status of residency or citizenship. But I mean, like overwhelmingly, the claim that they do get paid lower wages on average is true. Okay, and my question to you is, why?
what? That's what I was. Oh, okay, sorry. Wasn't that what I was just saying though?
Well, I mean, no, you were saying that it's the case that they don't just get paid lower wages on average, but they get paid lower than federal minimum wage, which is not true. So I'd like to clarify with you here. Why do you think undocumented migrants get paid lower wages on average?
Uh, because companies feel like they can use them and abuse them to do work that they don't want to do and other Americans don't want to do, and they know that they'll be accepting of the wage because they want to stay here and be able to provide for themselves.
So what you said is kind of true, but I mean, if we want to be like more, I guess, like more professional about it, the claim would more so be is that undocumented migrants get lower wages on average compared to U.S. citizens because they have less bargaining power in the workplace,
Okay,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And with more bargaining power comes higher wages. That's why unions exist. And basically, what this tells us is that having residency or citizenship gives you more bargaining power, which gives you better wages. And this is yet another reason why I support mass amnesty for undocumented migrants, because that means they'll have more bargaining power, the same amount of bargaining power as you or I, which means they could get the same wages as you or I.
Yeah, and I think that's good. But I'm a little curious what you think about because you've mentioned minimum wage quite a
Well,
bit.
well,
So
I want you to respond to that because
yeah,
that
yeah,
point is
and I
very
agree. I
important.
agree.
Because you
I
told
agree.
me essentially the only issue with a plan of mass amnesty over a plan of mass deportation is the fact that undocumented migrants get paid lower on average. Well, if we offer them a pathway to residency or citizenship, they'd be getting paid more, which would also mean they'd turn around and pay more in taxes and spend more in the economy. So GDP growth would actually be expedited.
But
Name one reason why I should support mass deportation over mass amnesty. It seems like any way we look at it, giving undocumented migrants a pathway to residency or citizenship only generates good outcomes for this country. Meanwhile, deporting them all only generates bad outcomes for this country.
yeah, but the thing is, we need to remember how they came in here. They came in here illegally.
Right.
And do you think that the people trying to come over legally should they be in front of them in the line, or should they have to go behind the ones that are trying to get in here legally?
And in front of them in a line or behind them in a line? What?
Yeah, because people who came over here illegally now have a
I think everybody should be offered the same expedited pathway to residency or citizenship.
okay, but the people who are here illegally would be getting citizenship a lot faster than people who are trying to do it legally back
No,
in.
I think that everybody should be offered a new expedited system.
Okay, and how long do you think that would take?
I think that the pathway to residency or citizenship should take like 3 to 6 months on average.
No, I'm saying how long do you think that would be to implement?
How long do I think it would be to implement? I'm unaware.
Years.
I know that it'd be more practical to implement compared to mass deportation, though.
Are you serious?
Yeah, of
It
course.
would take years, literally years.
I mean, whatever the time is, it would take longer to do mass deportation. I could give you my argument why.
We've already seen mass deportation work efficiently.
Yeah, but mass amnesty would work more efficiently. Do you want to know
Yeah,
why?
it would work, but it would take much, much longer. They would
No,
have to.
I disagree. I think it'd be more efficient. I can tell you why, seriously.
Okay, yeah, but let me just add in something. It might be easy to implement in America to get them a pathway to citizenship, but when we're looking at other countries such as Mexico, we would have to fix their entire political system almost. We'd have to fix the court system because many of these hearings are months out and there's not enough judges and there's not enough court systems.
Right.
So we would have to implement a whole new system of
Right.
our current understanding of the political system in Mexico.
Well, no, it'd be a system in America.
A system in America? So
Yeah, like American immigration laws would control the system of immigration to become an American.
I'm not exactly sure how that would work, but
What? Are you serious?
so they would be coming
Wait.
here.
That point is that point is just simply self-evident.
Yeah, but so they would be coming here illegally to their court hearings.
I think that you're lost in the sauce. What are you saying?
Yeah,
I don't
so just
understand. I
just
don't understand
tell
what
me
you're
how
saying.
you would implement it.
So I think that every single undocumented migrant in America should be vetted for prior violent offenses. If they don't have any, they should be offered an expedited pathway to residency or citizenship. And then everybody that is currently undergoing the legal processes of entering to this country and everybody who's waiting on the current legal processes of entering to this country should be offered that same expedited pathway to residency or citizenship. You were saying that there's some practical concerns with this. I think that it would have less practical concerns than mass deportation. The reason that I say this is because there's currently millions of undocumented migrants in this country. They are obviously not cooperative and not on board with mass deportation. Meanwhile, they would be cooperative and on board with mass amnesty. So seemingly would come with significantly less concerns of practicality, since millions of people would be willing in this circumstance, however, unwilling in the circumstance of mass deportation. So it's not only better ethically speaking, it's not only better economically speaking, but it's also better practically speaking.
Yeah, and I think that expediting is the best way to get illegal immigrants into the country. However, I think that no president has tried to do this, and I think you're making it seem like it's really easy to implement. If this was this easy to implement, then we would have seen
My
presidents do this in the past.
my claim isn't that it's easy to implement. My claim is that it's easier than mass deportation.
Okay, then why don't you think people who have been less anti-immigration have not tried to implement this themselves?
Because for whatever reason, my position is considered pretty extreme far left. Don't know why, but it is.
I don't think this is even a left position. I think most conservatives would be.
Mass amnesty is like a pretty radically left position.
Well, I agree with it. I think it's a good plan. I think that they would
Okay,
really help
so
the
wait,
economy.
so I just want to clarify. You started off this conversation by saying that the reason you voted for the violent offending rapist, fake Christian, over Kamala Harris was because you think he was better for immigration than her. But now you're conceding to the farthest left position on immigration.
No, I'm saying that
So
I don't think that immigration should be illegal. I think that if you're coming in legally, even if that is through expedites or whatever it's called, I think that is a positive. However, I think if you come here illegally, you should be expected almost to be
So do
deported.
you still support mass deportation over mass amnesty, even though I just gave you an argument to demonstrate that mass deportation only generates bad outcomes and mass amnesty only generates good outcomes?
I think that if you start this after the mass deportation, then go ahead. But I do not think it's fair for the people who have been spending years in their country trying to get here legally. They see these illegal immigrants coming over here, and now they're being expedited and to the front of the line. So I do not think that that is ethical. However, I think that if we do start from scratch and after doing mass deportation, and now it's a fair starting point for everyone, I do think that this would be good to implement.
Okay, so your position is just like it's unfair because all of a sudden the undocumented migrants in this country get a really fast path, a fast
Yeah.
track to citizenship, when generations of immigrants before them had to wait a really long time.
Yes.
Um, so is it like a core American value to want to make life easier for the generation that comes after us compared to the generation that came before us? Isn't it a core American value to seek progress and value to continually want to make our country better? You arguing that undocumented migrants should not have this expedited pathway to residency or citizenship because migrants before them had to wait years is like a 80-year-old woman in 1920 arguing that she had to live the entirety of her adult life without the right to vote. Therefore, it is unfair that newly 18, 19, 20-year-old women have the right to vote. Therefore, they shouldn't have it at all. Okay? We can't argue that because conditions were worse for those that came before us, they should remain worse for those that come after us.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but you have to realize that these people came here knowing that they could get deported, and they chose to come here. And now, I
This
mean,
was the first argument that I refuted. You're just saying that they came in illegally, so regardless of the bad outcomes that mass deportation will produce for a country, and regardless of the good outcomes that mass amnesty will produce for a country, they should still be deported because they broke the law. Well, my very first statement to you on the subject of immigration refutes this position. We agreed that legislation should only be implemented if it increases the quality of one's life, and it should be removed if it decreases the quality of one's life. The policy of mass deportation decreases average life qualities. The policy of mass amnesty increases average life qualities. So when you argue that we should be implementing policy that decreases average life qualities for miscellaneous reasons, you're not only contradicting what you agreed to when we started this conversation, but I mean, you're just essentially advocating for further regression, a
yeah,
worst
I
economy,
guess I
a reduced government revenue. So seemingly, you're advocating for this American last policy out of some unfounded sense of
I
law and order.
I think when you punish people, there is sometimes going to be a less quality of life. I'll give you an example. For example, if someone commits mass murder, instead of giving them the death penalty, you may put them in prison for the rest of their lives. And we as Americans are paying tax dollars for them to be in prison. So that is a policy. Instead of giving them the death penalty, we're having them stay in prison. So Americans are in some way being punished by
Actually, the
having
death penalty is
taxes.
more expensive than solitary confinement for the
I didn't know
rest of
that.
one's natural life.
Oh, okay. Well,
Like, do you see? Like, this is exactly why I say that this is an American last ideology, because it's only generating bad outcomes for this country. You're like, I want to pay $1 trillion because undocumented migrants broke in the next 10 years because undocumented migrants broke the law coming into America. I want to forego a couple $1 trillion in projected GDP growth because undocumented migrants broke the law coming into America. I want to cripple our labor force and reduce the overall productivity of the American economy because undocumented migrants broke the law coming into America. Listen, I understand that undocumented migrants broke the law coming into America. I think most of the culpability for that falls on the shoulders of our government, because at the end of the day, the only reason why so many individuals entered into our country with the use of legal means is because our government has neglected the legal means of entry into our country for so long. Nobody wants to be an undocumented migrant. Nobody wants to exist in our country under the constant threat of deportation, without an ability to get a loan from a bank to buy a house, without the ability to get a driver's license, without the ability to have a social security number. And the only reason why so many individuals do use undocumented means of entry is literally just because of the very simple fact that the legal means take too long, they're too costly, they're too expensive, they're simply unattainable. And I think that is our government's fault, not their fault, okay? So on top of everything I just said, on top of all the facts that I just shared about how your plans hurt our country and put our economy last, put our people last, it is also the case that I think that it is the government's fault for creating this issue in the first place.
yeah, I do agree with you now. I think I do agree with you. So I would say that maybe we should, if they're here illegally and haven't committed crimes, they should be able to stay, get a pathway to citizenship. However, I think that if they just stay here illegally, they do need to have a pathway to citizenship so they stop getting paid these low wages and they can start um, helping GDP.
Dean, I think we've talked to this person before.
I don't remember them.
I feel like
Parker
they come up all
is
the
a
time.
D1 hater. Parker, you get up here and you already start talking.
Oh wait, are you the same guy that run the argument about like how access to abortion is racist?
Nope. That's not me.
Yeah, I think it is. This guy, dude, I literally, the last time he was up here, I did the same thing, Dean. And I was like, bro, I promise you. He's been up here before. I promise you.
Is that same guy?
I
No,
think it is.
How do you keep on like slipping through the cracks, bro?
Actually, that's not me. The person about what you just said was not me.
He's such a liar, bro. Your voice is so distinct. It's terrible.
I mean, at least you're significantly more respectful today than you have been in the past.
Thanks. Wait, but can I ask you one more
He
question?
said thanks. He knows it, dude. And you gaslight me every time, dude. I hate
I
it.
mean, like the kid, like this guy, he's not like incredibly like stupid or anything. Like I think that you're more intelligent than most people that come up here, and like seemingly you're making progress, right? Because the first time we debated, you said that access to abortion is racist.
That actually
And
was
now-
not me. Like, I'm not joking about that. I have come up here before, but that was not my argument.
Okay. But regardless, now you're saying that every woman and girl deserves access, and now you're conceding the mass amnesty. I think I'm gonna radicalize you.
Yeah, so what do you think about the person who is, I don't know much about it, but the person who is being,
You've already been up like 4 times, so I'm gonna kick you. Parker, how we doing? Yeah, dude, I'm like actively radicalizing that guy though.